5 hours a day working on paintings, which is just the best thing in the world. And these are horses in the mist, and I'm learning how to do sfumato, which is an old master's technique. I think Leonardo da Vinci made it up. And it's where you've got these subjects that you've painted, like I've painted these horses very obviously, and then you sort of cover them in a mist. And I'm an intuitive painter, so I'm making it up as I go along. I know what I want. I want them looking like they're coming out of the mist. And I've managed to do it on one painting, and that's informing all the others. So I've got these 3 horses which I painted, and I had 2 apprentices that also helped me paint them, and because they're quite big, almost life-size, and now I'm doing the job of covering them. Not too much, or otherwise all our work's completely gone, but enough to give us an idea that there's a horse under there. Because when I get up, sometimes, well, pretty much every night, I get up and go check on them. If I wake up, I just think I might as well go out there and make sure they're okay, because it's something that's such an honour to have my horses in the garden, basically, and munching on hay. But if it's a misty night, it's one of the most magical things. You can hear them, but you can barely see them. And then they'll come out of the mist to come and say hi in hopes that you've got some food for them or something, or just to say hello. And it's always very magical. So I'm trying to encapsulate that. My son said, I'll just stop those noises. I'll work it out. My son said, video yourself painting. People might like to watch it, so that's what I'm doing. But the camera, it's a tight room. This is his old room, and so this was as much as you're going to get. But it's quite nice to get a close-up, I suppose, in a way. But the next one, hopefully, you'll be able to see all 3 horses. So I paint in the old master's Rembrandt technique, which is you start with your darks, then you go to your mids, and then you go to your lights. And of course, I'm one of these people that once you know the rules, then you can break them, because I'm starting with lights today, and then I'm going to mids, and then I'm going to darks, which is the opposite way around. Shouldn't really do it like that. But then I get a rag and mold and sort of get rid of it all, because it's just going to be tiny, tiny, weeny layers, and then very thin, thin layers, and then you leave it to dry, and then you do another thin layer, and that way you get this sfumato effect. And I'm probably pronouncing that completely ignorantly and wrongly, but and I was also taught today how I can get it so that I can fix the camera to stay in one position without going blurry and funny. I am on a learning curve, and I just decided, you know what, I just want to do these videos and get them out into the world and teach what I know in life, and I will learn as I go. So the 2 things I'm very, very interested in is painting and presence, and I teach presence when I work with people and horses 3 days a week, and I come into presence when I paint. And I've recently given up listening to any tech, like even music, even though I am listening to music in this one. That's why you can't hear the brush strokes, because I've had to get rid of it because of copyright. If I listen to music, it's going to be focused on consciousness. It's going to be worship music, or it's going to be, you know, opening my heart to a power greater than myself. It's not secular. And it can be devotional music from any mystic religion. as long as it's devotional. But actually recently I've been really training myself to paint in silence, because it's always a better session when I'm not distracted at all. So what I used to do is put on YouTube and then distract the parts of me that didn't want to concentrate and give them other things to listen to. But it did affect the painting. So I did stop, and I love painting in silence, creating and being created through by the ultimate creator, which is the one that, is in everything and creates everything and is the life force that is within all life and all beings and all inanimate objects as well. And the only reason I can tell you that with a surety is that many years ago I did an exhibition called 15 Heads of Christ, and I was painting Christ, and I thought, gosh, this is so much more deep than painting people that are alive today, that are normal people, get up, go to work, have a temper, make mistakes, have an ego. And because you get right into the psyche of the people, you kind of fall in love with them, and you get into the psyche of the people you're painting, and sometimes it's not very nice. When I was painting, whenever I paint the religious icons, which was how I practiced, by copying the old masters, and most of the old masters painted religious themes, people, places, I found the depth of painting Christ was so incredibly moving that when I finished the exhibition, I remember looking out the window, and I was looking at a wooden step that led up to our pool, which was a stand-up pool outside. And I saw through the step, and I felt the life force within the step, and I knew that the life force was what the step was made of, and I knew it was love, and it was intelligent, and it was communicating completely intelligently through and being this step, and it really blew my mind. And then I looked away and I saw it in another piece of wood, and then I couldn't see it in the tree, and then over a few months I saw and felt this life force in everything, and eventually I was able to feel it and see it in trees and grass, and it would hit me suddenly. I would suddenly see a patch of grass and go, oh, it's so alive, and the aliveness is intelligent, and I know that intelligence, it's within me too. So for 3 years I saw it in plastic, in everything, in cement. I was absolutely shocked. And then I saw it in animals, and I felt that intelligence in animals. I saw it in babies till about 2 years old, and then I couldn't see it in humans over 2, or in myself. It just, that was still completely unconscious, but I was very conscious that this living energy of divine love was completely unconditional and everywhere, and it could be tuned into, and when I tuned into it, it felt amazing. So I did that for 3 years, and then I had a 2-year kind of break, but integrating that knowledge. And I wondered if the reason why I could experience that is because I looked so deeply into things, because I was an artist. I don't know, and I didn't tell a lot of people. And then 2 years after that, so that was 5 years after the very first time I looked at the step, I saw it in children, felt it and saw it in children, and then I was able to feel it and see it in humans. And then one day I felt it, actually I know it was the 26th of April 2016. I was making a salad, and I was listening to something on YouTube, and I thought, what is that? I don't understand a word it is, I want to turn it off. It was a beautiful spiritual teacher called Rupert Spira. Couldn't understand a word he was saying, and I thought, gosh, I've only got 20 minutes, I'd love to listen to something more relaxing. But I had oil on my hands because I was making salad. So I let him talk, and with about 4 minutes of listening, some kind of thing collapsed within me. Old egoic structures, perhaps, collapsed and sort of fell backwards. And what was left making the salad came forward, and it was this love. And the love was me. And it was unbelievable. It was so good. And I was watching myself make the salad as unconditional love and this massive intelligence. And then I walked over to the iPad that was there, and I said, my goodness, I understand what he's saying. I get this. Wow. And then I couldn't understand why his interviewer couldn't understand him. She kept asking him these questions. I then, 20 minutes later, went and earned some income, worked with a client who came for equine therapy. And I just couldn't believe that I was so different, and yet able to teach, able to talk, able to eat. I was just, and then I went to sleep, and I hoped I would wake up in the morning feeling the same way. I never told a soul at the time. I woke up and boom, I was still in this loving bubble of complete peace. And I was just like, this is amazing. Hooray. Again, the next night, went to sleep, woke up, same thing. And after a few days, I started to think, maybe this is going to stick. And I realized, and it did. It did stick. For the first year, I was about 80% this love. And time was very difficult to take seriously. I was never frightened. Nothing frightened me, nothing triggered me. I would jump into very cold waters and nothing. We nearly had a car accident at one point. I was nearly hit on the side that I was, and my husband got us out of it. And I looked at him and my child were very like, whoa. And I said, I don't feel a thing. I'm not triggered at all. And they were like, whoa. I mean, at the time they had adrenaline running through them. And just could jump into very cold spring water and nothing. Very interesting, very calm, could sit for hours. My husband would go to work. I'd be looking at the wall. I'd be seeing much more than the wall, though. I'd be feeling this incredible sense of peace. And he would come back and I hadn't moved. So he couldn't really rely on me for the sort of wifely duties that I used to do, not for a while. But he said it was very nice being around me because it felt so loving. I didn't know what was going on, so I did start to look it up, and I was recommended some books, and I started to listen a lot more to Rupert. And then I decided I need to actually speak to the guy, so I signed up to do a 10-day retreat with him in San Francisco, and I had the money. It suddenly just appeared. I could go. My husband said, okay, yeah, I'll look after our child. And I went, and he helped me a lot. Yeah, apparently, people call these things awakenings, spiritual awakenings, and different things. But what it was for me was I hadn't ever been on a particularly spiritual path, except for I have been sober, and I have been going regularly to 12-step meetings and working on myself like that, getting rid of victim thinking and really just enjoying life sober, which never was easy at first. And clearing and cleaning, and didn't realise what I'd done is I had got myself from the point with all the, all the wonderful work that you do with all that. And then I got into yoga, and then I got into healthy food and got into service, loved helping people, did a lot of that. And I just went from someone that was more fear-based, which most of us are, into somebody that was more love-based. And the unconditional love, which we all are, which is the life force within us, came forward, and the egoic fear, me, went backwards. And sometimes the egoic fear is at 90%, but it'll pop back to 20%. And the unconditional love part is about 30, 40, 50%. And when it's over 50%, it's been a while since I've been integrating all this, then I feel very peaceful, but I do need to meditate to do it. I do have things that convince me that, you know, I must go into fear or I won't survive. But I can catch it pretty quickly and bring myself back into 51% peace or more. I do, of course, I do trigger. I didn't for a year, but I do sometimes now, not often. And of course things are going to frighten me. I'm still an egoic body. But the beautiful thing is I was given this gift, and now I give this gift, help to give this gift to others.